Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2, Chapter 3.1 through 3.7 review. Remember 2. Show all your work and circle or box your final answers. Excuse me. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Looking at number 1, we need to solve for W. How do we do that? Well, we want to get the W by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract that 14. Negative 13 minus 14 gives us negative 27, and that equals negative 9W. Now to get the W all by itself, we have to divide both sides by negative 9, and the negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 27 divided by 9 is 3. So we get our answer of 3 equals W. Okay. Let's move on to number 2. Once again, we're solving for n. So to do that, I want to subtract 8 to both sides. And we get 2/3 n equals 14 minus 8 is 6. Now, to get rid of a fraction, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. So that cancels. And off to the side, if you need to do 6 times 3, which is 18, divided by 2, we get 9. So our answer, 9 equals n. Okay, each step we're moving a little bit harder. Now, let's take a look on the left side before we start combining or solving and moving things. Can we combine anything? And the answer is yes. Negative x minus 6x is negative 7x plus 4. Okay? Now, on the right side, we have to distribute. And when you distribute that 2, we get 2x plus 22. Okay, so I want to move the smaller variable. So I'm going to add, I almost did the same thing as I did in class, add 7x, and we get 4 equals 9x plus 22. The x is not by itself yet, so we have to subtract 22. And we get negative 18 equals 9x. This part, guys, it should be super easy for you by now. And we get the final answer of x equals negative 2. You should be flying through, especially through that last part. Okay, let's do number 4. Now, what do we have to do to number 4 to solve? I don't like those fractions. Okay? Because even if you don't know it, that negative 2 is a fraction. So what I need is the LCD, the least common multiple of all those guys. And if it's 2 and 4 and 1, and when you figure it out, the number they all have in common is 4. Okay? So I'm going to multiply everything by the number 4. All right, so 4 times 3 over 4. Well, 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So we get our first one of 3y. And now we have to multiply by the next one. 4 times 5 over 2. Well, 4 times 5 is 20. And 20 divided by 2 is 10. So we get plus 10 equals, and now we do it again. Okay, we have 4 times 5 over 4. Well, 4 times 5, we just did it as 20. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. And the last one, 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. I'm not going to do that. Okay? Now the rest of this, the rest of you guys can do all on your own. So I'm going to pause the video. You should too. Solve it, and let's see what you get. Good luck. All right, when you're all done, you should get that y equals 9. Okay, let's move on over to the next one. Now, how do we get rid of those decimals? We got to multiply by the place value for this one. And the place value, well, that's actually 100 because we got 2 numbers behind the decimal. Okay? So when we multiply everything by 100, all we're saying to do is to move that decimal 2 spots. Multiply by 100, move the decimal 2 spots. Multiply by 100, move the decimal 2 spots. I think you kind of get the hang of this, but you got to remember that we have to do this to everything. Oh, and there we go, last one. Okay, so now that we've done that, we need to see if we can combine like terms. And if we look on the right side, there are 2 things that we can combine. So we have 175m minus 20. 85 plus 90 is 175. Okay, so I have variables on both sides, so I need to move them to one side. So I'm going to move the smaller one. The only thing is they're both the same. And when they're both the same and we subtract them, they cancel out. And we're left with negative 20 equals negative 3, which is a false statement. Okay, so if it's a false statement, our answer is no solution. Okay. Why don't you guys pause the video and see if you can do number 6 all on your own. Okay? Good luck. Okay, did you guys get to this point where 6w minus 6 equals 6w minus 6? Well, that's good because combining like terms. Now, what I did with my 4 minus 6, I just moved it to the front or to the back right there, just because we always want the variable first, okay? And now the next step would be to subtract the variable, move it to one side, but once again, they cancel, but now we're left with negative 6 equals negative 6, which is true. So remember, the answer here is infinite solutions. All right. Let's move down to some word problems. All right, number 7. Jocelyn loves making jewelry and has a total, sounds important, of 138 pieces in her collection. She has twice as many bracelets than necklaces, and they want to know, how many bracelets does she have? So the first thing I notice is they're talking about bracelets and necklaces. I'm automatically going to say that both of them are X because they both need a variable. Now, what do we have more of? Well, right here it says she has twice as many bracelets. So if she has twice as many, That's 2x. Okay? And then we can take that, so we've got our equation, well, our two variables, we got 2x plus x, and that equals 138. And now we can solve. Okay, you combine your like terms, you get 3x equals 138. The next step would be to divide. Ooh. Okay, so now we're going to do long division. 3 doesn't go into a 1, but it goes into the 13 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. We subtract, and then we drop the 8, and 3 goes into 18 6 times. And we're all done. Okay, so we get that x equals 46. But what are they looking for? They want bracelets, guys. Okay, so bracelets, we have to take our number and plug it in. So 46 times 2, I'm just rewriting it because it's not in your multiplication chart. 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1, 92. So your final answer is 92 bracelets. All right, let's slide on over to number 8. It says Melanie's local grocery store is having a special on pumpkin pies. 3 pumpkin pies cost $15.75, and they want to know how much would she pay if she bought 5 pumpkin pies. So the two things that we're talking about is we're talking about pies and we're talking about money. So we know our first one is if she has 3 pies, she's paying $15.75. They want to know what happens, how much is she going to pay when it's 5. So to solve this, we've set up a proportion. So all we have to do is cross multiply. 3 times x is 3x. And then off to the side over here, if you don't know it, we have to multiply. Okay, and we're multiplying by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 2 is 7. Carry the 3. 5 times 5 is 25. Plus 3 is 28. And 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 2 is 7. Now the only thing that's missing is the decimal point, and we had 2 numbers behind, so we got to make sure that's still the case. And we get 78.75. Now to solve it, we have to divide by 3, and once again, we're going to have to do long division. So 3 goes into 7 2 times, and we get a 6. How many times does 3 go into 18? Well, it goes in there 6 times, and that's 18. Get a 0. Got to drop to 7. Bring the decimal point up. Once again, 3 goes into 6 2 times. And then we get 15. Sorry guys, I'm running out of room. Okay, 15. 3 goes into 15 5 times. And then we get our answer. The 5 pies would cost, the 5 pumpkin pies would cost $26.25. Okay. Let's move on to number 9. Miss Carranza found an amazing designer leather purse at DSW on sale for 80% off. The regular price of the purse was $230. What was the sales price? So what we need to do is when we have a problem like this, we always start with 100% and we subtract our discount, okay? So we're only paying 20% of that. I want to change that to a decimal, which is 0.20 or just 0.2. And then we're going to multiply 230 times 0.2. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay? I had one number behind the decimal, so I've got one number behind the decimal again. And there we go. And just remember that we're talking about money, so it's $46. All right, number 10. It says Jonah is 6 years older than his best friend Brian. If the sum of their ages is 120, they want to know how old Jonah is. So we've got Jonah and we've got Brian. Remember, we automatically want to throw X's on those guys. So if Jonah is 6 years older, that means Jonah is X plus 6. And then we take those two things and set them equal to 120. So the solving part, you guys are all on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and good luck. Okay, and when you go through and solve, you should get X equals 57. And that 57 stands for Brian, but they want to know how old is Jonah. So 57 plus 6, we get that Jonah is 63 years old. All right, number 11. A lot of people have trouble with these types of problems, okay? Now, it says that Romeo and Juliet got into a huge fight and they ran away from each other as fast as they could. Okay, we got Romeo ran 4 feet per second in one direction and Juliet ran 6 feet per second in the other direction. How long will it take for them to be 200 feet apart? All right, so we're talking about distance, and we got to remember that distance equals rate times time. Okay, so if little Romeo is running in one direction and Juliet is running in the other direction, we want to know how long till they are both 200 feet apart. Okay, well, we take their speed. Romeo is going 4t and Juliet is running 6t. And we take those two guys and we add them together. So we have Juliet's speed plus Romeo's speed. Do you notice that Juliet runs faster? I wonder if she was in track in high school. Okay, and now we got our problem. So now that we've got this, I want you to pause the video and do it all by your own. Good luck. Okay, and when you're all done, you should get that to t equals 20 seconds. Make sure to label your answer. All right, number 12. Aaron has 3 times as many dimes as nickels. If he has a total of $2.10, how much of each coin does he have? All right, well, we're talking about dimes and nickels. Well, First off, we start off that both of them are x. And he has 3 times as many dimes, so that's why it's 3x. Now, the next thing that we have to do, we would normally set up, well, x plus 3x equals 210. But we can't do that because one, we're talking about quantity, and the other, we're talking about value. So we have to give these a value. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the x by 0.05 and the 3x by 0.10. And then when we do that, we get 0.05x plus 0.30x equals 210. And at this point, most people choose to say, I don't want those decimals here. I'm going to get rid of them. Okay, well, multiply by 100. And then you get, oh, that's supposed to be next. Then you get 5x plus 30x equals 210. And you guys can solve this all on your own. So let's pause the video. Good luck. Okay, now if you look to the left, after we solved it, we had to do 35 or 210 divided by 35, and I don't know what that is on the top of my head. So off to the side, you can see my side work where I kind of guessed. I tried 5. 35 times 5 was 175. That wasn't my right answer. So I tried with my next one, and we got 6. And that's how I got my answer. Now, I want to know how many of each coin I have. So right now, I know that we have 6 nickels because that's what X was. And then you just have to do 3 times 6, and that is 18. And that equals how many dimes we have. All right, let's flip it over. We only got 4 more problems to do. All right, so it says solve and graph each inequality and write the solution in interval form. Okay. So first step to do is we got to draw the line down the center, start solving for x. There's my x. I'm going to subtract 12 to both sides, and I get 7 is less than or equal to x. Okay, now the only thing we need to do is we need to make sure that the variable is on the left side. So we've got the x and the 7. It's pointing at the 7, so I'm going to make sure it stays pointing at the 7. We have to graph it. 2 numbers higher, 2 numbers lower. Is it open or closed? It's closed, and we shade to the right. So from that point, I can do my interval notation, which is closed at 7, and it goes to positive infinity. All right, number 14. Draw the line down. Solve for x. I'm subtracting 4. We have negative 3x is less than 3. I divide by a negative 3. And we divided by a negative, right? So if we divide by a negative, we have to flip the sign. So we get x is less than negative 1. So negative 1 in the middle. I go 2 higher, 2 lower. Open or closed? Open, and it's less than, so we shade to the left. Doing the interval notation, we start at negative infinity, and negative infinity is open, and the graph stops at negative 1, and then we're open at negative 1. All right, number 15. Draw the line, but we need to distribute. So negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Add 12 to both sides. And then we get 6x is less than 48. Okay, to solve, we have to divide. And did I divide by negative? Nope. So it's days. We do not flip. 2 higher, 2 below, open or closed? It's open and we shade to the left. Interval notation, we start at negative infinity and we stop at positive 8. And both of those are open. All right, last one. Number 16. Once again, we want to solve for x. So we have to subtract by 4 to everything. And we get negative 14 is less than negative 2x is less than or equal to 2. I want to get the x all by itself, so I'm going to divide by negative 2. I divided by a negative, so we have to flip the signs, and we get positive 7 and negative 1. Okay? So we have to flip this because we always want the lower number all the way to the left. And then we have to pay attention to each one of these. Between the x and the negative 1, it's pointing at the symbol's pointing at the negative 1. And between the 7 and the x, the symbol is pointing at the x. Okay? So when we draw this, we just worry about our two symbols. At negative 1, we're closed. At 1, it's open. And we shade in between. Okay? Well, guys, I know that was long, but it was a lot to cover. But that's it for Algebra 2, Chapter 3.1 through 3.7 review. Remember, before reviews, we're going to be having a test. So make sure you're studying, guys. Okay? That's it. Thanks for watching.